The rain poured mercilessly as she stood trembling before the ATM, mascara-stained tears indistinguishable from the raindrops on her face. Her elegant cashmere coat, now soaked through, clung to her shivering frame as the screen flashed a cruel error message. Of all the nights for her card to be declined, it had to be this one. In a small town she hadn't visited in 6 years, with her rental car broken down 2 blocks away, Madison Wells controlled billions in assets across 3 continents. Yet here she stood, unable to withdraw $50 on a stormy night when she needed it most. Headlights swept across the empty street as a weathered pickup truck slowed beside her. The driver's window rolled down, revealing a man with kind eyes and day-old stubble. "Need some help?" he called out over the drumming rain. Madison hesitated, clutching her useless platinum card. As their eyes met, neither could have imagined how their worlds were already entangled in ways beyond comprehension. He had no idea that the soaked woman standing helplessly in the rain was not just any stranded traveler, but the billionaire mother who had walked away from their child 6 years ago. Jack Reynolds worked his fingers to the bone 6 days a week at Reynolds Auto, the repair shop he had built from nothing on the edge of Millfield. At 37, his hands were permanently stained with engine grease, his broad shoulders carrying the weight of sole responsibility for the little girl who meant everything to him. His daughter Lily had just turned 6 last month, bright-eyed and precocious, with a talent for drawing that astounded her kindergarten teacher. Each morning, Jack woke before dawn to prepare Lily's lunch, braid her hair the way she liked it, and drop her at Mrs. Peterson's house before heading to work. Each evening, no matter how exhausted, he'd sit patiently as she described every detail of her day, never once letting her see the bone-deep weariness that followed him like a shadow. The small 2-bedroom house they shared echoed with Lily's laughter, but also with the absence of someone they rarely discussed. On Lily's bedroom wall hung a carefully framed drawing, a stick figure family with a tall father, a small girl, and a faceless woman drawn in yellow crayon, with a question mark where her smile should be. "Sometimes families are just different," Jack would say when the questions came, tucking her in with an extra tight hug that tried to fill the void of 2 parents' love. 20 miles away in her penthouse office, Madison Wells had built an empire from a family inheritance she'd nearly lost. At 40, she was featured on the cover of Fortune magazine as one of the most successful philanthropists and investors in the country. The Wells Foundation funded medical research that saved thousands of children's lives each year. Yet behind closed doors, she kept a small wooden box containing a hospital bracelet, a tiny pink sock, and a photograph of a newborn, with a small birthmark shaped like a crescent moon behind her left ear. Every year on April 12th, Madison would close her office, silence her phones, and disappear. Her assistant knew better than to schedule anything on that day. It was the one appointment Madison never missed. A private memorial for what she had surrendered. "You can't stay out in this weather," Jack said, stepping out of his truck without an umbrella, rain immediately soaking his faded blue work shirt. "My place is just around the corner. You can dry off, use the phone." His genuine concern disarmed her. Madison hadn't experienced such uncomplicated kindness in years. Most people wanted something from her: power, connections, funding. "I don't want to impose," she replied, rain dripping from her chin. "It's no imposition. I've got a little girl waiting at home with my neighbor. Was just picking up some medicine for her cold." He gestured to a small pharmacy bag on the passenger seat. "I'm Jack, by the way." "Madison," she offered, accepting his help into the truck. She noticed the worn upholstery, the dashboard decorated with a plastic flower Lily had made in school, the faint smell of pine air freshener trying to mask the scent of motor oil. As they drove through the storm, Madison couldn't help but notice Jack's hands. Strong, capable hands that worked hard every day. Hands so different from the manicured executives she dealt with daily. The modest house on Maple Street glowed warm against the dark sky. As Jack led Madison to the front porch, the door flew open. A small girl with unruly brown curls stood there in mismatched pajamas, a worn stuffed rabbit clutched to her chest. "Daddy, Mrs. Peterson let me stay up until you—" Lily stopped mid-sentence, her eyes widening at the sight of the elegant stranger. "Who's that lady?" "This is Madison. Her car broke down in the rain," Jack explained, ushering them both inside as he thanked Mrs. Peterson, who gathered her things to leave. She needs to use our phone and dry off a bit. Lily studied Madison with unabashed curiosity while Jack found a clean towel. Your hair is pretty, even though it's all wet, Lily declared. Do you like hot chocolate? Daddy makes the best hot chocolate with extra marshmallows when it rains. Madison felt a strange tightness in her chest as she accepted the towel. I'd love some hot chocolate, she managed, taking in the child's features. The shape of her eyes, the small dimple when she smiled. Familiar features that made her heart race. She watched as Lily climbed onto a kitchen stool, chattering about her day at school, about the drawing she'd made of a rainbow unicorn, about how her teacher said she had a special talent. Show our guest your artwork while I make the cocoa, Jack suggested, reaching for mugs in the cabinet. Lily disappeared into her room, returning with a folder bulging with colorful papers. Madison sat on the worn sofa, accepting each drawing with growing wonder. Horses, houses, fantastic creatures, each showing remarkable detail for a child so young. Then came a drawing that made Madison's hands tremble, a little girl standing beside a faceless woman with yellow hair. At the bottom, in careful kindergarten printing, me and my mom in heaven. Daddy says my mom is in heaven, Lily explained, misreading Madison's shock, but I think she's just lost and trying to find her way back to us. Madison couldn't speak. Behind Lily's left ear, partially hidden by her curls, was a crescent-shaped birthmark, identical to the one in the photograph Madison kept locked away. Time for medicine and bed, kiddo, Jack announced, returning with steaming mugs. You can show medicine the rest tomorrow if she's still here. Will you be here tomorrow? Lily asked, her eyes hopeful. Madison swallowed hard. I might be. My car needs fixing. Daddy can fix anything, Lily declared with absolute confidence before allowing herself to be led to bed. When Jack returned, Madison had composed herself, though her mind raced with impossible coincidences and growing certainty. She's wonderful, she said softly. She's my whole world, Jack replied, settling into the armchair across from her. Has been since her mother left when she was just 2 weeks old. Madison's fingers tightened around the mug. Left? Jack's expression hardened slightly. Disappeared one morning. Left a note saying she couldn't do it. Couldn't be a mother. He shook his head. I never heard from her again, just me and Lily ever since. Every word felt like a knife. The story was both true and profoundly incomplete. Madison had indeed left, but not as he'd described. Not willingly. Not without agony that had hollowed her from the inside out. I'm sorry, Madison whispered, the words entirely inadequate. Don't be. We're doing fine, Jack replied with practiced conviction. You can use my phone to call a tow truck, but nothing will happen until morning with this storm. The sofa pulls out if you need a place to stay. Madison made a show of calling a towing service, then a local hotel, which was conveniently fully booked. Jack offered the sofa bed again, and Madison accepted, her mind racing with plans, fears, and the desperate need to learn more about the daughter she'd been forced to abandon. Morning brought weak sunshine and the sounds of Lily preparing for school. Madison woke to find the little girl attempting to quietly set the table, standing on tiptoes to reach the plates. Need some help? Madison offered, startling Lily, who nearly dropped a cup. Daddy's in the shower, Lily explained. I'm supposed to be the breakfast helper on Tuesdays. Madison stepped in following Lily's precise instructions about where everything belonged. Together they prepared a simple breakfast of toast and fruit. When Jack appeared, freshly showered and surprised to find them working together, Lily beamed with pride. Madison knows how to cut strawberries into flower shapes, she announced. Over breakfast, Madison fabricated a story about being in town for business, about her rental car that needed repairs. I could take a look at it, Jack offered. Might save you some money on towing. That would be very kind, Madison replied, seizing the opportunity to extend her stay. I'd insist on paying you properly for your time. Jack waved away her offer. Neighbors help neighbors, even temporary ones. After dropping Lily at school, Jack took Madison to her strategically disabled rental car. She had disconnected a few wires the night before after he'd fallen asleep. As Jack bent over the engine, Madison studied him. The man who had raised their daughter alone, who had created a warm, loving home despite limited means. The man whose life she was about to complicate beyond measure. Should be an easy fix, Jack declared, reconnecting the wires she had carefully displaced. Try it now. The engine purred to life immediately. Madison feigned relief and gratitude. Where are you staying while you're in town? Jack asked as he wiped his hands on a rag. Madison hesitated before answering. I haven't decided yet. My meetings might run longer than expected. Well, Lily would love it if you stayed another night, Jack admitted. She doesn't get many female visitors. Might be nice for her to have someone to talk to who knows about girl things. Madison couldn't have scripted it better herself. I'd like that very much. Over the next 3 days, Madison integrated herself into their routine. She joined them for dinner, helped Lily with a school art project, and watched with a breaking heart as Jack worked a double shift to afford new shoes his growing daughter needed. Each night, after they slept, Madison sat in Lily's dimly lit room, memorizing her daughter's peaceful face, fighting the urge to wake her with kisses and apologies. On the 4th day, as Jack worked at the garage, Madison took a calculated risk. She asked Lily to show her more drawings, this time paying special attention to the faceless mother figures that appeared in many of them. Why doesn't your mom have a face in your pictures? Madison asked gently. Lily shrugged, focusing intently on the new drawing she was creating. I don't know what she looks like. Daddy doesn't have pictures. That must be hard, Madison ventured. Lily looked up, her expression suddenly serious. Sometimes I dream about her. In my dream, she has hair like yours and she smells like flowers. She tells me she didn't want to go away. Madison's breath caught. What do you think? Do you think she wanted to leave? Lily considered this with surprising maturity. Mrs. Peterson says sometimes grown-ups have complicated reasons for doing things. Maybe my mom had complicated reasons. Maybe she did, Madison whispered. Later that evening, after Lily had gone to bed, Madison sat across from Jack at the kitchen table. The moment she had both dreaded and yearned for had arrived. She couldn't maintain the charade any longer. Jack, there's something I need to tell you, she began, her voice steady despite her racing heart. He looked up from his coffee, his expression curious but open. My name is Madison Wells. She paused, watching for recognition. 6 years ago, I was Madison Campbell. The color drained from Jack's face as the mug in his hand clattered against the table, spilling coffee across the surface. That's not possible, he whispered. I have the same birthmark as Lily, behind my left ear. Madison turned her head, lifting her hair to reveal the crescent shape. She inherited it from me. Jack stood abruptly, knocking his chair backward. Get out, he said, his voice deadly quiet. Please, just let me explain. Explain what? His voice rose sharply before he caught himself, glancing toward Lily's room. Explain abandoning your 2-week-old baby? Explain disappearing for 6 years without a word? Explain showing up now, pretending to be a stranger? Madison remained seated, her composure cracking. I didn't choose to leave. Jack laughed bitterly. Right. Someone forced you to write that note, I suppose. Forced you to walk away. Yes, Madison answered simply. My father did. Jack stopped pacing, staring at her with disbelief. What are you talking about? Richard Campbell, banking magnate, controlling father. When I got pregnant, he was furious. His unmarried daughter carrying the child of an auto mechanic. Madison's voice grew stronger as she finally spoke her truth. He threatened to destroy you, to use his connections to ensure you'd never work again in this state. When that didn't convince me, he threatened to contest custody, to use his wealth and influence to take the baby once she was born. Jack shook his head in denial, but Madison continued. I knew I couldn't win against him in court, not with his resources. So I made a deal. I would leave, renounce all claims to my child, and in exchange, he would leave you alone to raise her without interference. He made me write that note, made me break both our hearts. If that's true, why come back now? Jack demanded, still standing at a distance, arms crossed defensively. My father died last year. His final manipulation was a stipulation in his will that I could never contact you or Lily, or I'd lose control of the foundation I'd built, the medical research that saves children's lives. Madison's eyes filled with tears. I respected that condition until 3 months ago, when a little girl in my foundation's children's art program submitted a drawing of a faceless mother with a crescent moon. Jack sank slowly back into his chair. Lily's school entered some artwork in a regional contest. Madison nodded. When I saw that drawing, saw her name, I knew I had to find her. Find you. Even if it meant losing everything else. Silence stretched between them, heavy with 6 years of loss and misunderstanding. I don't expect forgiveness, Madison continued quietly. I don't expect to suddenly become her mother. I just needed you to know the truth. And I needed to see her, just once, to know she was happy. Jack's anger hadn't disappeared, but confusion had replaced some of his rage. How do I know you're telling the truth? Madison reached into her purse and removed a sealed envelope. This contains documentation of a trust fund I established for Lily the day I left. My father never knew. It's been growing for 6 years, managed by a law firm, with instructions to transfer control to you on her 18th birthday. There's enough there for college, for anything she might need. Jack stared at the envelope, but didn't take it. We don't need your money. It's not my money, Madison corrected gently. It's hers. It always was. My way of being present when I couldn't be physically here. Before Jack could respond, a small voice came from the hallway. Daddy? Why are you shouting? They both turned to see Lily standing in her pajamas, clutching her rabbit. Everything's fine, sweetie, Jack managed, his voice strained. Go back to bed. But Lily's gaze was fixed on Madison, her young mind processing something adults often underestimate in children, their ability to sense truth. You're not just a lady whose car broke down, are you? She asked quietly. Madison looked helplessly at Jack, who gave an almost imperceptible nod. No, Lily, Madison answered, her voice trembling. I'm someone who knew you when you were very small. Lily took a step closer. Are you my mom? The one in my drawings? Madison couldn't speak past the lump in her throat. She simply nodded. I knew you'd find us eventually, Lily said, with the simple certainty of a child who had never stopped believing. She crossed the room and stood before Madison, studying her face with solemn concentration. You have my same moon behind your ear. I checked in the mirror after I saw yours. Madison remained frozen, afraid to reach out, afraid to hope. Can I hug you? Lily asked. Just to see how it feels? The dam broke. Madison opened her arms, and Lily stepped into them cautiously at first, then with increasing certainty. Over the child's head, Madison met Jack's gaze, saw the conflict there, the protective instinct warring with the knowledge that this moment meant everything to his daughter. Just a quick hug, Jack said hoarsely. Then bed, Lily. We all have a lot to talk about tomorrow. Madison reluctantly released her daughter, who surprised them both by standing her ground. Are you leaving again? Lily demanded, suddenly fierce. I don't know, Madison answered honestly. That depends on a lot of things. Don't go, Lily said simply. We have an extra room now. Daddy finished painting it last month. He said it was for guests, but we never have guests. Jack cleared his throat. Lily, this is complicated grown-up stuff. No, it's not, Lily insisted with the clarity of childhood. She's my mom, and she got lost, and now she found us again. She should stay. After Lily finally returned to bed, extracted promises from both adults that Madison would still be there in the morning, Jack and Madison sat in waited silence. I can get a hotel room, Madison offered. Give you space to think. Jack ran a hand through his hair. The damage is done. She knows who you are now. If you disappear again, he couldn't finish the thought. I won't disappear, Madison promised. Not again, not ever. But I understand this is a shock. I understand you're angry. You have every right to be. I spent 6 years hating the woman who abandoned us, Jack admitted. I'm not sure I know how to stop. Then don't, Madison said. Hate me if you need to. But please, let me know my daughter. The following days were a delicate dance of boundaries and raw emotions. Madison checked into the local inn, but spent her days with Lily, always with Jack's cautious permission. She learned her daughter's favorite foods, peanut butter sandwiches with the crusts cut off, her fear of thunderstorms, her extraordinary artistic talent. Jack watched their interactions with guarded eyes, protective but increasingly unable to deny the joy Lily found in Madison's presence. A week after her revelation, Jack arrived home to find Madison and Lily hunched over a large canvas, painting together. His daughter's laughter, richer and more carefree than he'd heard in months, stopped him in the doorway. Neither noticed him as Madison guided Lily's hand, showing her how to blend colors to create the perfect sunset. The intimacy of the moment, the genetic connection visible in their identical expressions of concentration, struck him with unexpected force. This was not a woman playing at motherhood. This was a mother reconnecting with her child at the most fundamental level. That night, after Lily was asleep, Jack found Madison on the porch swing, staring at the stars. "You're good with her," he said simply, sitting beside her, leaving careful space between them. "She makes it easy," Madison replied. "She's extraordinary, Jack. You've done an amazing job raising her." Jack was quiet for a long moment. "I've been thinking about what you said, about why you left." His voice was carefully neutral. "I called an old friend who works at Campbell Bank. He confirmed your father was exactly the kind of man you described." Madison's eyes widened slightly. "You've been investigating me. Can you blame me?" The question held no anger, just weary reality. "No," Madison admitted. "I'd have done the same. I also looked into the Wells Foundation. The work you do, saving children with rare diseases, funding experimental treatments when insurance won't." He shook his head. "It doesn't fit with someone who would abandon their own child without a reason." Madison felt a dangerous flicker of hope. "I never stopped thinking about her. About you. I used to drive by your shop sometimes, just to see if you were okay from a distance. My father had people watching me. It was the most I could do." "Why risk everything now?" Jack asked. "Your foundation, your wealth. You're walking away from all of it to be here." Madison looked at him directly. "Because no amount of helping other children could fill the hole left by not knowing my own. Because I realized that my father's control extended beyond his grave, and I was still letting him dictate my life." Her voice broke slightly. "Because when I saw Lily's drawing, I knew I couldn't live with myself if I didn't try to make things right." 3 weeks after Madison's return, disaster struck. Lily didn't come home from school. The bus driver reported she never boarded, and panic erupted. Jack called the police while Madison organized volunteers, her corporate efficiency channeled into finding their daughter. As darkness fell with no sign of Lily, the fear became palpable. Jack and Madison searched side by side, calling Lily's name into the growing darkness, their shared terror temporarily erasing all other concerns. It was Madison who thought to check the creek where Lily had mentioned wanting to catch frogs. There they found her, huddled under a fallen tree with a sprained ankle, unable to climb the steep bank. Jack carried her home while Madison ran ahead to call off the search and prepare hot soup and blankets. That night, after the doctor had left and Lily was safely asleep, Jack found Madison in the kitchen, her composure finally breaking. Silent tears streamed down her face as she mechanically washed dishes. "Hey," he said softly, taking the plate from her trembling hands. "She's okay." "I thought," Madison couldn't continue. "For a few hours I thought I'd lost her again, without ever really having her back." Jack did something then that surprised them both. He pulled Madison into his arms, holding her while she cried. "You didn't lose her," he murmured into her hair. "We found her. Together." The next morning, Jack watched as Madison sat at Lily's bedside, reading stories and helping her draw, despite the child's awkward position with her elevated ankle. The casual intimacy between them, the way Lily naturally leaned into Madison's touch, the matching expressions when they concentrated. It was like witnessing a connection that had merely been paused, not broken. That afternoon, while Lily napped, Jack made a decision. He handed Madison the still unopened envelope containing the trust fund documentation. "I don't need this," he said firmly, "but I want to know what's in it." Together they reviewed the papers, the substantial trust fund Madison had established for Lily, the regular deposits, the careful investments. The final sum made Jack's eyes widen. This would pay for any college she wanted, several times over. Madison nodded. "I couldn't be her mother, but I could make sure she had opportunities." Jack studied her face. "You never really left her, did you?" "Not in the ways that mattered most," Madison answered quietly. The next day, Jack made another decision. He cleaned out the spare room that had been serving as storage. The one Lily had mentioned was for guests. "You shouldn't stay at the inn anymore," he told Madison that evening. "It's wasteful when we have the space here, and Lily would love having you closer." "Are you sure?" Madison asked, hardly daring to hope. "No," Jack admitted with unexpected honesty. "But I'm sure that Lily needs you, and I'm beginning to think that maybe I was wrong about you all these years." 1 month after Madison's reappearance in their lives, news broke that the board of directors of the Wells Foundation had voted to remove her as CEO, citing violation of the terms of her father's will. The story made the financial papers, which is how Jack discovered it, bringing the newspaper to her at breakfast. "You really did lose everything," he stated, not a question. Madison glanced at the headline, then at Lily happily eating cereal across the table. "Not everything," she replied, "not what matters most." Jack studied her with new understanding. "Your foundation saved lives. Others will continue the work," Madison said simply. "I can find new ways to contribute." Jack folded the newspaper thoughtfully. "You chose her over everything else." "I would make the same choice 1,000 times," Madison replied, her eyes never leaving Lily. The following week, Lily's school hosted an art exhibition featuring student work. Her drawing of 3 figures, a tall man, a small girl, and now a woman with a defined face and yellow hair, was prominently displayed. The title beneath read, "My Family Finding Each Other Again." Madison stood before it, tears streaming unchecked down her face when she felt Jack's presence beside her. "She has your talent," he said quietly. "Among other things." "She has your heart," Madison replied. "Your goodness." Jack was silent for a moment, then took Madison's hand in his, their fingers intertwining naturally. "We both gave her something worth having." 2 months after Madison's return, something shifted between her and Jack. The careful distance they maintained began to dissolve as they worked together to create a stable environment for Lily. Madison found work consulting remotely for businesses in need of restructuring, refusing to touch the modest sum she'd set aside for herself before losing control of her foundation. Jack watched her choose simplicity over luxury with growing respect. One evening, after Lily was asleep, they sat together on the porch swing that had become their place for honest conversations. "I've been thinking," Jack said, his voice thoughtful, "about us, about what happens next." Madison tensed slightly. "What do you mean?" "I mean that Lily adores you, and you've proven you're here to stay." His eyes met hers. "And I'm starting to remember why I fell for you in the first place." Madison's breath caught. "Jack, I'm not saying I'm ready to forget everything," he continued, "but I'm ready to forgive, and maybe to start seeing what might be possible now." "I never expected this," Madison admitted. "I came back for Lily. I didn't dare hope for anything more." Jack's hand found hers in the darkness. "Hope is a funny thing. It shows up when you least expect it." 3 months after that rainy night at the ATM, on a bright Sunday morning, Jack stood at the stove flipping pancakes while Madison set the table. The routine had become comfortable, their initial awkwardness giving way to a tentative friendship built on their shared love for Lily. The spare room had become unmistakably Madison's, though she and Jack maintained careful boundaries, still healing from old wounds. Lily burst into the kitchen carrying a homemade card decorated with glitter and drawings. "Happy Parents' Day," she announced, presenting it proudly. "Parents' Day?" Jack questioned, raising an eyebrow at Madison, who looked equally confused. "I invented it," Lily explained with the impeccable logic of a 6-year-old, "because Mother's Day and Father's Day are too far apart, and now I have both of you together, so we need a new holiday." Madison knelt to examine the card, which showed 3 stick figures holding hands beneath a bright sun. The figures now had detailed faces, Jack's with his characteristic half-smile, Lily's with her wild curls, and Madison's with eyes the exact blue shade Lily had carefully mixed from her watercolors. "It's perfect," Madison whispered, gathering Lily in a hug that had become natural over the passing months. Jack set down his spatula and joined them, one arm around each. "Best holiday I've ever heard of," he agreed, his eyes meeting Madison's over their daughter's head, with a warmth that spoke of possibilities neither had dared imagine. In that moment, surrounded by the smell of slightly burning pancakes and the sound of Lily's giggles, Madison recognized what true wealth felt like. Not the billions she had surrendered, not the corporate power she had walked away from, but this. A second chance at the family that had been stolen from her. A chance to rewrite their story, not with money or influence, but with love that had waited patiently for 6 years to find its way home. Outside, morning sunlight filtered through the kitchen window, casting 3 shadows that merged into one on the linoleum floor. Separate figures, becoming, against all odds, a single family.